Let's try recording. See whether this is going to work, because, like I say, I am not sure, but we'll try it. Anyway, so where are we in this simulation? So it is 1 o'clock. We are in the Tyneside Signalling Centre, and we are operating a special timetable for this area. So we start at the south end. So the south end is on the left hand side. The line to North Allerton is here. It continues then through to Darlington here. You also have the line that comes in from Eaglescliffe and Middlesbrough, and the line that takes you up to Bishop Auckland. We continue along the East Coast Main Line, including the slow lines here around Thrislington, over the barriers, level crossing here at Het Mill, Durham, continuing through to Tyne Yard. Above Tyne Yard is the line coming in from Carlisle, and Metro Centre. Below that is the line that comes in from Middlesbrough via Middlesbrough via Hartlepool, and the South Hilton branch of the Metro. And then the Metro continues down here, and then you have Newcastle Central Station here. The bit over the King Edward Bridge is shut because of engineering works, so there's a reduced timetable. Everything is having to go via the Gateshead Curve around the back, which means there's not very many trains running, but you know, for the purpose of this simulation, it's actually quite easy. And then, like I say, the Metro swings off at Pelor, comes back round, goes into Newcastle, and then you have the line that goes out past Heaton Depot, Cramlington, out towards Morpeth. Now at the moment, there's not a fat lot happening. I forgot to drop the barriers a little bit late for this train here, which is the 1249 from Morpeth, which is going to Newcastle. So it's probably going to get checked down because of the signal there. The Metro is running fine. There's a few trains around, but there's not a lot in this simulation, so let's get going. So there's a lot of automatic route setting on this. Now, the thing with automatic route setting is, which is fine, though to be honest, because this is a sort of timetable that isn't properly fully, thought it'd get checked down. The ARS for this timetable doesn't work tremendously well. It's okay, but there's a few problems. The biggest problem is this one here. So this train here, 5 Echo 82, which is Durham to Birtley Junction. Now, the problem here is that the train, on arrival coming up from Durham here, it goes along the down main, and then the signalling system tries to route it towards Newcastle, which it shouldn't do because it's got to turn round. So that causes a few problems. So you have to be on top of the automatic route setting here. Not a chaotic problem, but, you know, better to sort of keep an eye on it. Anyway, even though there's automatic route setting, I go in, set a few routes, because actually, let's face it, I've not got a fat lot to do at the moment anyway. So we're running slightly quicker than normal time. Oh, no, we're not. We're not. We're actually running at normal speed. So I'm going to speed this up to about 1.5. Because actually, there's not a lot happening. So you can get away with it. Normally, you'd probably not want to be running at sort of more than 1.5 is fine. 2 is a bit much, depending on the complexity of the timetable. If you were doing, for example, Birmingham New Street, you wouldn't want to do that on your own anyway. You'd want to run it in real time. Anyway, brief explanation of what's going off. So the little blocks are basically your trains as they're moving along. There's a level crossing at Killingworth, which is just being raised because the train's gone over the crossing and the barriers are going up. Here's another train. The automatic route setting has set the route from platform 4 out over the up main, which is reversible, so you can go both either direction, crosses over onto the normal down line, and is set the route. So the white lines are your routes, Where it's red is where the train is sat, or the track circuit, the small amount of power that goes through the track, says, there's a metal wheel on this rail, and there is a train there, you'd like to think. And as you can see, 1 Sierra 11 is on the move. 1 Sierra 11 is a fast train. It's a London to Edinburgh service, and the next stop is beyond Morpeth, and that just shows you the passing time. Gives you a bit of data here as well. So it's a 125 mile an hour train, but we'll not be doing 125 mile an hour in this part of the world. 1OK14 is coming down from Scotland, going to King's Cross. It'll arrive in Newcastle at 13:15, depart at 13:22, and will depart from platform 3. The train in front of it, 2 Alpha 11, the Morpeth Newcastle, calls at Manners, then goes into Newcastle and terminates to form the next train going back towards Morpeth. So I'm going to set the route a bit far in advance for that one anyway. The one thing to not do in this sim is set it too far in advance, because the problem you have then is that if something goes wrong, or you have to fiddle about with something, you have to cancel routes, and that's pretty annoying and frustrating and causes all sorts of problems. So this empty train here starts with a 5. Anything with a 5 is an empty train. So this was the arrival from Durham. Normally the train would go through to Newcastle, but because of the engineering works, there's limited capacity. So train terminates at Durham, goes empty stock to Birtley Junction, so it comes from Durham here, along the down line, onto the up and down slow, gets to low fill, turns round, goes back to Birtley Junction, and then forms its next working, which is 5 Oscar 40. So you press I on the keyboard, or interpose up here, but I use the keyboard, interpose, and I've forgotten the head code already, it's 5 Oscar 40, so 5 Oscar 40, OK, and click on the signal there. There you go, 1340 Birtley Junction to Durham, departs 1340 and arrives at 1347 for a 1349 departure of 1 Oscar 40, which goes towards Reading and Bournemouth. Right, I need to lower the barriers here, and I've been a bit late doing so. Some simulations have automatic barriers dropping, this one doesn't. So at Killingworth and at Dam Dykes, I'm dropping the barriers manually. Normally there would be a CCTV operation here, but obviously we can't simulate that. So what happens is, when the barriers are dropped, everything is fine. The clear button starts flashing, and you just press clear, and the signals clear to green, or whatever colour it is, depending on how many signal sections ahead is free, and then the train continues on its merry way. So the problem is now it's slowed the train down. Oh well, never mind, which means it's going to be a little bit late possibly, but not always. At East Bolden here, pretty much everything stops at East Bolden. So the Tyne-and-Wear metros are 2 India trains, so they start with the 2. Head code is then has a letter after it. So 2 is the essentially speed of the train, whether it's a fast train or a stopping train. India is just a letter prefix, and that tells me that it's a metro train, and that stops at East Bolden, so you don't really need to drop the barriers until the trains actually sort of kind of come to a stop. And again, not doing very well with the barriers here, but again, some of these level crossings are not so bad. Hetmill is really in the middle of nowhere, so you could drop it a couple of minutes beforehand in advance. That's not a problem. I don't think you're going to bother anybody. Maybe a couple of cows that want to cross the line or something, but you know, it's not a catastrophe. Certain features. So one of the things here is to allow a faster approach into the station in Darlington. When you set a route that's coming off the main line here, so the main line goes through here, the up and down main. Up is always to London, down is away from London. It's diverging routes, so basically this route is actually, it's 125 miles an hour, so you know, if you're going straight through, it's quite a fast route. If you're swinging off to go into the platform, it's much slower. because of safety, that would normally be red, but now they it's been going for quite some time now, from the mid-80s. They now have these flashing signals, so it tells the driver, okay, I'm going to be going across the route into off the main line into the station in this circumstance. So the driver can sort of doesn't have to prepare immediately to come to a stop. And they get a flashing double yellow, flashing single yellow there, and then they can access Darlington Station. Darlington Station has 2 long platforms, 2 through platforms, 2 south-facing bays. The 2 south-facing bays are pretty much always used for the northern services that go towards Middlesbrough. And the through platforms are for the trains that go towards London to Newcastle, and then the train every hour that goes up to Bishop Auckland and back. So, let's have a look again, see whether there's anything else interesting happening at the moment. Probably not. So, 2 Alpha 16 is the next train from Newcastle. Fine. I'm not going to set the route from Newcastle, because I want to show you something anyway. 1 Echo 14 drops into platform 3. Now, I could let the automatic route setting do it, but do you know what? I'm going to do it myself. This is the case of simply clicking on one signal and then clicking on the next one, and away it goes. One of the things about this timetable particularly is the fact that the trains that are terminating at Metro Centre come into this platform here and then go out over this junction here at Swalwell Junction, back towards Blaydon and towards Carlisle. Now, it's got a bit of a sort of unusual way of doing it. It's not normally done that way, simply because here, so for example, this signal here at the end of Metro Centre Station, which has got the emergency replacement on, basically I've put it back to red, is a normal red signal. It could show yellow, could show green. Instead, it departs and it has to go past this signal here, which is signal 5481. Now that's not a normal signal in the normal railway situation. Not normal. They're all over the place, but they're not. They're usually used for what shunt movements, basically moving from one. You know, if you're repositioning railway coaching stock in depots, that sort of thing. You know, you can't go past them at high speed because they're very small and they only ever show 2, 3 lights, I think it is. 2 white lights, essentially. So they don't get used in normal railway signalling for passenger services very much at all. It does have a slight problem with it. So what will happen here, this train, for the automatic route setting, it's green. I right-clicked on it. Is the train ARS? ARS. Yes. Fine. No problem. But what will happen once it goes past this signal here, 262, it will go grey. And I'll give you an explanation once that actually does that. So, 1 Echo Waffles arrived into Newcastle. It's on time. It's waiting for departure time at 13:22. I'm going to drop the barriers at Het Mill so I don't forget about it, because otherwise I'll delay the train. I don't really want to do that. 1 Echo 13, that calls at Darlington, so I'm going to set the route into Darlington for that one. So as you can tell, there's a lot of backwards and forwards in this sim. But you can have multiple players on this. So where you see these green lines here, for example, in the middle of the screen, that's where one signalling panel ends and the next one starts. So you can turn round. Oh, it's automatically pulled the route off for it. I was going to show you what happened just before departure. So you could turn around and say, right, multiplayer mode, somebody's going to control Newcastle. So they do a bit up to Morpeth and maybe Gateshead, and then somebody else would do Sunderland. You can set any signals you want, no problem at all, but it just means that, you know, somebody's doing one bit and somebody's doing another bit. It just spreads the workload. So what's happened at Metro Centre? So the train's arrived into Metro Centre. It's terminated. The computer system has turned around and said, right, okay, that train on arrival at Metro Centre forms the 1330 to Carlisle. Head code is 1 Golf 74. Now, 1 Golf 74 would normally depart from this platform here and underneath it, because normally trains don't start and terminate in Metro Centre. So the computer system turns around and goes, well, oh, that's in a bit of an unusual place, so I don't know what to do with it. It would not set any automatic route, so I have to manually set the route as a result of that. It's not a problem. So that signal's now gone white. The train can depart fine. What I will have to do is fiddle about with it in a minute and basically move this information down to here, because otherwise the signalling system will not work properly. And I think I'm going to get to 20 past, and then I'm going to stop and I'm going to see whether the audio on this sounds fine, because that's the biggest problem.